Well, you always had a fascination with science, didn't you? Wasn't that one of the things that used to interest you when you were growing up?
Sure, when I was growing up. No, I think my job choice when I was younger was pretty much the very traditional job choices for any kid growing up in the 60s, which is number one job choice was astronaut. My nephew, my 2-year-old nephew, like simply like going to the airport and looking at the planes is so exciting. And I said, well, I still feel that. Like when we drive by the airport, like I feel like, and I fly like once a week, you know. And when I get to the airport, I see the airplanes, and it still is just incredible to me that like it's one thing that airplanes exist, but then it's shocking to me that we get to be in them. That like it's so widespread that like, oh, well, just anybody can pay, you know, $200 and then you can fly somewhere. Like it's crazy to me. And then like they're just cool in a way that I feel about it the way I did when I was 9. I still feel it's still there on tap, even though I'm a business traveler.
So it's something you can relate to your nephew about.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
And do you see yourself kind of in him a little bit?
I don't know. I was playing with him, and it was really very much like playing with the dog. Like, and somebody once said to me, like, I never had a dog before now, and so I have a dog, and I was just like, and somebody was explaining, like,
you have
having
a dog?
Yeah, that a dog is like, dogs sort of have the intelligence level of a 2-year-old.
Snoopy.
Yeah, it's true. And playing with the 2-year-old, I was really struck about how it's exactly like playing with a dog, except he can talk to you. Though I learned that if you say that to your sister,
What kind of dog is he?
It's a pit bull. As you can tell, we are very, very tough people. But he's like he's just a problem dog. Like he gets anxious when people come into the house, and so we're trying to train him out of that. And he's allergic. A lot of pit bulls have allergies, and so he's very, very allergic. In fact, because we live in New York City, we go to a pet allergist for him, who says that he is, if not her worst case, maybe one of her worst cases. He's just allergic to everything, and so now we actually are at a point where, in order to get him to a stage where he's just not biting his paws out of like allergic agony, we cook for him.
I don't know where to go from there. Okay, so back to the
but
astronaut.
That's just like once a week, you know, like once a week. We cook a batch of stuff.
I can only imagine what it must be like to coddle a pit bull. Did you ever think that you would be able to make a living off of being a storyteller?
I didn't think I would make a living as being a performer. I mean, I don't know. Growing up where we grew up, like, we didn't know anybody who like was a professional entertainer or writer or journalist.
Royal Polikoff.
Yeah, that's true. That was the one guy.
That was our one guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you were always involved in performing. I mean, the Magician Act and...
It's true.
The plays.
But I didn't think it was going anywhere. I mean, I feel like we were told, in fact, explicitly by adults that those jobs are so rare that people don't get those jobs, so don't even shoot for that.
Still like musicals?
Not as much, actually. I mean, it's funny because now that I've gotten older, now I know these people who are in the business of musicals. And I like their musicals, but generally no. When the musicals I've seen in the last couple of years, I thought, I saw The Lion King and just felt like, well, who am I supposed to care about in this musical? Like, what I'm supposed to identify? Like,
oh, like Lion King.
No, I think The Lion King. Aww. I do not understand it as a piece of storytelling. Like there's a lion cub whose dad dies,
yeah.
And then he's like, well, who am I in that story as somebody watching? Who do I relate to? Like, I think it's a completely inaccessible piece of work.
Do you get recognized a lot?
I've recognized a little. I mean, in Chicago, where the show started, where we did 1 million live events over the years, if I'm in Chicago, I get recognized exactly one time a day. Like, literally if I'm just out and about, exactly one time I will be recognized.
What's that like, having a stranger come over to you, you have no idea who they are?
It's nice. It's more normal and less glamorous than I would have thought if I had bothered to think about it at all before it started happening, you know? Like it seems sort of normal. I mean, I think maybe because the fan base of the show is public radio listeners, and I think that they have a relationship to the show and to public radio, which is much more that they see us as their peers, and so they're pretty chill about it. You know, they come over and they're pretty very, very normal. People seem very normal. They always seem like people who, it's just by like a chance that I don't happen to already know them. You know what I mean?
How do you treat your fans when they try to get in touch with you?
I'm a monster. I feel like generally the people who are fans of the show, when they come up to me, they're totally chill about it. And they just say like, "Hey, what to say? Like, I like your show," and I say, "Thank you. That's incredibly nice of you to say that. Thank you." And that's usually about as far as it goes.
If you could meet any celebrity, anybody at all, who would it be? Who would you want to have personal interaction with?
None of them. None of them. I feel like I have no interest in meeting famous people. I mean, and just because of we're on the radio, like as a show, and at this point, like I've met just some really just astonishingly famous people.
Who's the most famous that you've met?
Well, I mean, when I was a reporter, you know, I met President Clinton. like, it doesn't get more famous than that. He's about the most famous person you can meet. You know, he's the President of the United States.
No, come on, in the entertainment world.
I mean, it feels silly to talk about. But I mean, back in the day when Brad Pitt was with Jennifer Aniston, my senior producer, had a meeting with Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. It was one of those things where agents and studio people like thought like, you guys should meet. And at the time, Brad and Jen were setting up their production company called Plan B, which has now done like all sorts of great films.
Yeah, it really has put on a lot of
But this is
stuff.
just when they were starting, and so they were looking for ideas for films, and we had a lot of stories, and so various executives thought that like we should hook up with them and tell them some of the stuff that they might be able to make movies out of. And in fact, there was one that we went into development with them on. But generally, like they were utterly lovely. But generally, like it's weird meeting people who are super famous. It's just so it's odd. Like the dynamic of it is odd.
In what way?
Since so many people like want a piece of them and want to be near them, it's almost like you have to. It's almost like you just have to be careful that you don't overstep in any way. And yet, on the other hand, you want to be utterly normal with them and to try to have a normal conversation. And then often I feel like that you have the feeling of like you'll meet somebody who's like absurdly famous, you know, and you'll think like, oh my God, this is the one chance I get to ask Salman Rushdie anything I've ever wanted to ask him. Look, he's standing right there. I could just walk over to him and talk to Salman Rushdie. But then you think like, and then you have to like remember like you know, just like what do you want to talk to Salman Rushdie about? And like there's a huge weird thing to think through.
But doesn't it help if they've heard of you and they're an admirer too? I mean, do you ever feel like maybe they want to ask you something too? You know, like it's mutual.
That definitely helps. No, that definitely helps. Like, you know, Salman Rushdie is an international figure. You know what I mean? I do a show in public radio. Like you know, like there's a chance that he might have heard of me, but really, I think I've got to go in there kind of ready to kind of carry the ball, you know, for the two of us. This just happened. He was at an event 2 weeks ago, and I was just like, should I go over and talk to Salman Rushdie? And it's just like, you know what? I don't think I am. I don't think I'm going to talk to Salman Rushdie.
It was too weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you feel intimidated?
No, I didn't feel intimidated at all. It's more just like, what are we going to talk about? It's sort of like a math problem. Like, what are you going to talk about with this person who you know who they are so well?